Come on, let's continue with the next scene. The first thing, let's go to the audio key L twice and unfold the waves, and let's see from what point to what point the next animation will last.
Exploiting the internet's increasing potential initially and leveraging available advantages.
It's okay here when it says initially.
Right there, initially.
In this scene, with the audio layer chosen, proceed to edit for adjustments. For split layer or control, if the capital is held more D again and pressing L twice, lets us continue listening to the audio.
Initially, Bezos thought of naming the company Cadabra. However, his attorney advised against it because it resembled the word corpse too closely.
And precisely there, he'll conclude the upcoming scene when the name Cadabra is mentioned prominently. It sounded too much like the word corpse, which is right at that point. Again, edit split layer, and this part of the audio that we have cut with Ctrl+C, we copy it and come to the compositions folder. We are going to create a new one that is going to be called Scena Cadabra de 1920 by 1080. At 30 frames and with 20 seconds to spare. Now here, in this composition Ctrl+VY, we paste our audio. We set it here to the beginning of the timeline, L key twice.
Initially, Bezos considered calling the company Cadabra.
Following this audio, we piece together the upcoming scene. First accessing the Assets folder for the cardboard texture to be used. From it, we are going to create a new composition, and this is going to be called Background Scene Cadabra, for example, and we put it into your folder, and here we are going to come to the settings, and we are going to make it 4K of 3840 by 2160. Everything else we leave as is. Now we are going to scale this texture a little so that it is more or less adjusted to the composition. And we come to the Assets folder, and here I am seeing that I don't have it. So we come to File Import, and we are going to bring this ink foot GUI to animate the development. All these. I am going to leave them so that you can download them and practice this course. We are going to put this video here below, and to see only this layer, we can activate the icon . This foot GUI, we have to scale them a little to cover the entire space of the composition. It can be valid there, and now it is. We have to make the cardboard texture matte alpha of the ink. If the F4 tracking mats appear, and with this pick Y, we associate it with ink. Now nothing is happening, because we have to invert the matte alpha by clicking on this icon. Okay, perfect, there we have it. But for that cardboard texture, don't stop seeing yourself at this point. In this ink layer, we are going to right-click, Time, activate Time Remapping, and now we can extend this layer for as long as the composition lasts. And now it no longer ends. Come on, let's continue. We come to the Composition, Scene, Cadabra, and here we are going to put our background. We have to convert it to 3D and help us with two views. I have this viewer in left view. Since we are going to send the composition of the texture backwards, pi key here in Z, we are going to put a value of 1500. Okay, perfect. Right click, we will create a camera. And this is going to be 50 millimeters and a node. And again, right, click New Null Object. We also converted it to 3D and stuck the camera to it. Here at the beginning of the timeline, we unfold the position of the null and mark a keyframe. And we are going to move to 225, and right there we mark another. We come to the first, and here we are going to do a lot of zoom. We are going to put a value of 2220 in ZY. We are also going to move it a little to the right. Here we put 880 in X. We select both. With F9 we smooth it, and we are going to give it the curve that starts very quickly and little by little loses speed.
Initially, Bezos considered calling the company.
Now, being in this last keyframe, we are going to come to the images folder and from that of Jeff the Pie, and thinking we are going to create a new composition that we are going to put in his folder, and then later here we are going to create an animation, but for now we leave it as it is. We return to the composition, each scene, and we are going to bring Jeff's. We put it here, we change its color, for example orange, and we are also going to convert it to 3D. What happens is we have to position the key P. We take off the position, and well, here in Equus we can move it to the right a little bit down. But hey, so as not to get involved with these axes, we are going to put the exact values here. Here we are going to put 1500 in XY in, and we are going to put 1100.
Initially, Bezos already considered.
Okay, perfect. There you can see how he enters the scene.
Initially, Bezos already considered.
And what happens there is great. The texture. I want you to start a little bit later, for example, here in box number 20. Over there, although later, as we progress in the project, we can adjust the timing of some layers. For now, we are going to leave it there.
Initially, Jeff Bezos thought of naming the company KDAP.
Okay, now being in this null with control, we duplicate key, or these keyframes, by clicking on the clock. We delete them and mark one new, and it is important to link the previous null to the new. And we are going to put in the second 110, we put this keyframe there, and we now go to 415, right there, and we are going to continue zooming. We now put a value of -900 in Z. And these two keyframes with F9, we smooth them. Right? Kit Kefren velocity, and we are going to put an influence of 65% on the drivers. We have to have a curve like this.
In the beginning, Jeff Bezos thought about calling the company Cadabra Vale.
You continue to be in this keyframe, again in the last Control D key. We delete these and mark one, new. We are going to put here now, in the second 3, we delay this keyframe up to that point, and we link the old null to the new. We are going to move now to the second 7. And again, we are going to continue zooming. Now we are going to put a value of -3300 in Z. We smooth the keyframes. Right-click on any of them, keyframe velocity, and the equal influence of 65%.
Bezos considered calling the company Cadabra, but his lawyer advised him to rule it out.
And here in this part, his lawyer enters, making the gesture of no with his finger. So we're going to come to the images folder, and the one called lawyer says no. From it, we create a new composition that we're going to put it in his folder. And now we have to animate this finger by making the gesture of. We are not going to do it with the puppet pin tool. but I am going to activate the complete quality to see it better. Okay, let's mark a dot around here, sort of on that knuckle, another on the wrist, another on this knuckle on this one, in this and in this, and now another one in the middle here, and at the fingertip. Well, with the U key we display all these keyframes that each one corresponds to a point, and we are going to click, for example, here in the first, and tells us that it is this one in the middle here is the second, and this the third. Then we can delete all those that we are not going to encourage. And here at the beginning we are going to do a small animation without going too far, because if we cannot completely deform the character, I am going to do Ctrl-ZY and leave it as it was. And now we are going to do a very subtle animation. I think that over there it can now be more or less worth 10 frames forward, because we are going to animate the finger towards the other side over there. I think it will look good there. We checked that it does not look deformed. It's worth another 10 frames forward. We are going to select these first three, and with Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, we glue them, and so that the animation does not end. When we reach the end of these three, we are going to do the following. Here in this clock, Alt key pressed, and we click. And in the dialog box, we are going to write loop out. Okay, now this animation no longer ends what happens. To make it look good, we have to put this expression on the other two puppet pins. So we go into this right-click copy expression only, we go into puppet pin 7, Ctrl-V, now into puppet pin 6, Ctrl-V, and we're going to preview it to see what it looks like. Well, I think it looks perfect there. If we want, we can select the keyframes and with F9 smooth them. Okay, great. We come to the Kadabra scene again, and now being at this point, we are going to bring the lawyer's one, we put it here, we put the same color as Jeff's, and we convert it to 3D. We deploy the position, and this lawyer's one, we are going to bring it quite towards the front. Here where we have the camera, because it is the composition of the lawyer, we are going to put it, well, little better. If we take off the position, we are going to give it the exact values. Here we put it at Z minus 4000. Here we are going to move it a little bit to the left, we put it 465. And we're also going to move it down. Here we are going to put a value of 700. In any case, we have to modify these values later without problems. And we are going to see how the animation looks.
Initially, Bezos considered calling the company Kadabra, but his lawyer advised him to discard that name because they are.
Okay, what I'm going to do is expand the scale with the S key, and I'm going to make it smaller. I'm going to put the scale at 60%, 100.
But his lawyer advised him to discard that name.
Okay, I like it a lot better.
He advised me to discard that name.
Okay, come on, let's move on.
Initially, Bezos considered calling the company Kadabra, but his lawyer advised him to discard that name because it sounded too good.
We select this null Key UI, we display the keyframes. We put ourselves here in the last one, and with Control, we duplicate it again. Key OI, we eliminated these. We mark 1, we relate the previous 0 to this one, and without moving from here to the second 7, we leave this keyframe there, and now we are going to go to 10:15. And now what we have to deal with is that the character from 10 Kisses is seen here in the foreground. So we are going to animate the Z-axis. We are going to put a value of 480 here. We are going to put it in X 1480, and here in Y, well, we are going to lower it a little too. We set a value of 500, and we smooth these two keyframes with F9. And in the graph editor, if the curve appears like this, you have to have Edit Speed Graphs activated. We double click on this node, and we are going to set the influence to 90. We give it to, or K, we double click on it, and here we are going to set the influence to 55%.
Because it sounded too much like the word corpse.
Okay, there it is, perfect. Let's unfold the keyframes of all the nulls with the key. Oh well, we already have the camera animation ready. Now it would remain for us to add details to the composition, for example, to this texture. To fill in all these spaces, we are going to put the effect called CC Repeat. We select the CC Repeat background layer, and we are going to expand the pixels to the right, left, down, and up. And from Repeat, we change it to a background. And now we make sure that at all times you see the bottom looking. If you are doing a preview and it looks so pixelated, is it because you have to have final quality activated? Well, there it is, perfect. Now we are going to animate the layout. We stand more or less here. We come to put the pen tool, and we click on this part. And with capital or shift pressed, we do another here. And we are going to leave the thickness at 750. Now we are going to change this root. We also have to convert the name per layout to 3D with Alt Control and the Home key to center the anchor point and position. We are going to put the same background as we have seen before. There is a depth of 1500 pixels on the Z-axis, so we come to the layout. And here we are going to put 1500. Is it worth it? Here I am seeing that the layout does not complete all the space, so we are going to click on any of it. For example, on this one, and with capital pressed, we are going to extend it to the right. And now this point with the Alt key pressed, we select it. And we move it to the left, okay? And here on the axis, and well, we are going to put 540 so that it is well centered there to the composition. And in Y960, okay, perfect. There it is, right in the center. Now we are going to encourage this route in this part when he says that he thought about naming the company that I think is here after Kadabra. Between these two keyframes, we are going to listen to the audio.
Consider calling the Kadabra Company. Consider calling the Kadabra Company. I want to call the Kadabra Company.
Okay, so right there, between these two keyframes is where the animation is going to be. So we get pretty much there. There, in 125, we come to the layout and we are going to put the trim paths effect and we set the end property to 0. We mark a keyframe, we advance a little. Here is the second 4, for example. Now we can put it at 100. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, perfect. I'm not going to soften these keyframes or anything. I'm going to leave them linear like this. We come to the project panel, and here in the composition folders, we are going to create another new one that is going to be called Kadabra Text. And this is going to be 1920 by 300 pixels. Everything else we leave as is. And here with the text tool, we are going to write Kadabra. This font is called Bookally in its BOL variant with Alt Control. And the home key, we center the anchor point and help us with the safety margins. Well, we are going to put it, we are going to climb it a little first, and we are going to put it there, and we are also going to bring the Amazon logo. We make it smaller. I'm going to remove the background on this icon, and now what I want is to stay only with the logo symbol. So with the pen tool, I'm going to outline it there. Okay, S key. We make it smaller. And we're going to put it here under the word Kadabra. And it's a little bit bigger. Well, not much out there is worth. And I'm going to leave the symbol here in this part. Now I select these two layers with Ctrl D. I duplicate them and I'm going to put them on the other side over there and over here. Well, we return again to the Kadabra scene, and here we are going to bring that of the text that we have just created. We are going to put it on top of the layout. We convert it to 3D well, and we are going to paint these two layers the same color. For example, greens. And this text, we display the position, and we are going to put the same position as that of the layout. Here on the z-axis, we give it a value of 1500. That's what happens. If we want, we can make them a little bigger. Well, the symbol is not the word. So we lower the symbol a little. We eliminate these two and duplicate them again with Ctrl D, and now these. We put them on the other side. Okay? We return to the scene, and now we are going to put a couple of effects to this composition. The first, CC Repitail, and we're going to expand the pixels to the left and to the right. We put a value of 2000, more or less good now. Let's see if it was necessary to put more of it around. The story is that the Kadabra logo is visible at all times in the composition. And I think it is perfect there. What happens, I think, is that they are not at the same distance from each other. So I'm going to enter the composition, and I'm going to move these a little to the left and these two layers to the right. Let's see now. Okay, I think now, yes, that they are more or less the same distance from each other. We are going to put another effect called offset. And now what I want is for this Kadabra word to stay right in the center of the composition. So we're going to move it around there. I think it's perfect. We'll check again. Well, what I see is that I'm going to move the lawyer's composition a little more to the right. Over there. Maybe okay. I like it better there.
But his lawyer advised him to discard that name because it sounded too similar to the word corpse.
Okay, perfect. With Ctrl A, we select all the layers. And now we are going to create a right-click light, new light. This is going to be dot type with an intensity of 100 and cast shadows activated. The darkness of the shadow, well, we leave it at 35 and the diffusion at 10. In any case, then we can modify these values whenever we want. We give OK. And the first thing I see is that I don't want the lights to affect the composition of the lawyer. So we come to Material Options, and here the light accepts is on, so we leave it off, okay? And I don't want the lights to affect the same one either. Then we deploy Material Options, accept lights off, but here the cast shadows projects shadows. I'm going to put it on and look. We can now see its shadow here. In the background, what happens? We have to position the light so that this shadow does not look so big. We come to it, key pre-activate two views to see it better and well. Here we have the light. We can move it backwards. Over there. But so that you don't get confused with these axes, we are going to put the exact values. Here in X, we are going to put 500 in Y610. And here in the Z-axis, we are going to put a value of minus 3600. Okay, look where we have the light, and look now what shadow it has created for us. Okay, perfect. If you want to touch up the shadow so that it doesn't look so dark, you can come to the light by double-clicking, and here you can modify the darkness, the diffusion. Well, I'm going to leave it that way, but if you want, you can play with these values until you find a result that you like. Okay, here's one thing we haven't done, and it is the text of, do we need to work on the initial concept and design of the layout animation Kadabra? If we see F4, and here in the follow-up mates with the Peewee, low, we relate to the layout, and now watch that with the animation of the stroke we are revealing. What passes the route, we have to get it back to make visible.
Initially, Bezos considered calling the
Kadabra Corporation.
However, his attorney suggested he abandon the name since it sounded too alike.
All right, excellent. Proceed then. We already possess the camera animation along with the elements. Although we can add more later, for now, let us start with it. The effect. The one we observed in the video when he declares.
Dead body, deceased individual.
That a glitch effect is seen here and the character looks like a zombie face. And we are going to do that in the following way. We come here to the composition of Jeff thinking and Piley is tasty. We put quality. When fully integrated, it appears excellent. Everything. Detail. And now we're going to come to, in general, composition. Let's save it properly. In the frame file section, here's what we need to provide. Okay, save your work. In the section that mentions Photoshop, we'll need to choose the PNG sequence and follow through. Kindly click right here. Jeff Thinking. Here we have a standing zombie. And we're going to keep this one, place it in our assets folder. We give it to save render, and we already have it saved. Now this frame belongs here. In Photoshop, we are going to open the frame we just saved in after. The effects stemming from this remarkable image are astounding. Well, let's go ahead and create an entirely new one, but it should resemble this kind of look. Zombie type for the eastern part of the audio in which he says that the word cadabra. It was very similar to the word corpse. And for this, we are going to help each other with generative filler. Utilizing Photoshop, particularly now with the enhanced lasso tool. Well, let us carefully select the specific area we want to modify. In this case, the focusing specifically, eyes over yonder, the nose, the mouth, not the finger, over there. Once we have ours closed, selection, let's go. Right here at the prompt, what we want to see inside, this area. Take, for instance, a zombie face. Face of zombie lay. We give to generate, and we wait a few seconds to see what it gives us back. Photoshop. Here it has generated 3 images. Different, and in these icons, we can seamlessly transition from one to the next. However, my preference does not lie with this one. Neither is this one. And this one perhaps? It's closer to what I'm looking. But yes. Even so, we don't like any, we can give it to generate. It's there. The first one that has generated us anyway, as it is going to be a scene that is barely going to last half a second. Well, I think that with this one we are going to serve perfectly. What I do want to do is that the eyes are totally visible. By adding the color white then. Can we continue? With the loop tool. Let's select this one. Let's enter the zone and give it a try. And here we go to right. Zombie Ace, known for their white eyes, makes an appearance. Zombie, white. Let's go. Generate. Alright then. This is going away. Almost close enough, I'd say, to what I am. In search of every single one of them. Forms. The nose? I don't know, because it looks so green. But hey, this image can us. Works perfectly. If you are not satisfied with what Photoshop has returned to you, well, here you can always modify the prompt. Now these 3 impressive layers with a simple click. Right, I'm going to combine with the shortcut Ctrl E also. And now we will proceed to file export settings. How? And here we choose. We export and save them in the folder where we have the images of our project. Once we've touched up in our Photoshop, we choose image as it allows us to import into After Effects. I have it ready right here. I give it to Matter, and this is it. I'm gonna, please get inside of the images. What now? I'm gonna put them on top of the original Jeff. Originally, please rectify it. Here's one and another. To make this animation, it goes great. What we are going to do is copy again the comprehensive audio control C. And we come here to the composition of Jeff Thinking, and for control, by there we have the audio key element, L twice. Let's go. Listen to him. Okay, well here when it says corpse.
Corpse.
It is exactly right there then. Let's cut. Jeff Zombies edit the split layer carefully as we went ahead and deleted this particular one. I decide to
Indeed, a lifeless body remains.
perfect, or
Be a corpse.
we deploy the opacity with the key. T, we mark a keyframe, and we left it at 100.
Corpse.
And here, nearly reaching the conclusion, we're almost ready to execute that. Let's do a little browsing on Flickr there. Shall we put the opacity on it? At exactly 0.2. More pictures. Move forward 100 frames, add 2 frames to 0, then 2 more frames to 100, making it 2 plus 0. And others? Add 2 more frames and 100. And now all these, right-click on the keyframes, and let's proceed. Activate the keyframe function in Google Home. Let's see. How does it look?
There's a corpse. Another corpse.
Okay, the thing is, I want you to go a little further. Quickly then. We are going to select all these last ones. We move them a little bit to the left. Okay, but here's the opacity has to end at 0. Now we come to the Kadabra scene. Let's take a look to see if it looks similar to the...
A word, a corpse lying still.
Let's check out this audio clip and say the word to see how it looks.
Because it sounded too similar.
To LA?
A word, a lifeless body.
Okay, great. Created similar to the...
Expressions, lifeless beings.
A trust like no other one.
Expressions, lifeless beings.
In conclusion, this particular one here right now. I will proceed to remove it and allow it to conclude. This way?
Lifeless beings, lifeless beings.
This is already trying. Until find a result, may you like it.
Because it sounded too similar.
A single word like a corpse.
Then here we are going to make a transition. Which he won't either. Finish. In this way, and we're going to splice with the next scene. For now, we're going to come here, to the assets. And we have over here, there is a layer of something there. This one I know. Let's call upon the heaven. Dark. Let's put well by here under Jeff. We delve into Jeff's thoughtful composition. And right here, when you see that one over there, La, zombie face not moving from there, the head, we come to Siena Kadabra, and just by there we're going to cut what happens to the text and the layout. Are we going to put it under of the background? This one, from the dark sky. Okay, but we have to convert her to a 3F key 4 low could mean a hidden message. We convert it to 3 of. With start control, we center the layer Y in view, and we are going to put it behind Jeff's character. We got him there, and the heaven in this one, part 10. We're going to move it a little back by, example, we put it here in the position, a value. We have around 500 positioned out there strategically with the S key. Well, we're going to climb it a little bit.
Word corpse.
Okay. What now? Being here right at the fundamental principle of the matter is where it starts. The background, we come to, Jeff, can you explain why? All these keyframes. With Control C, we copied them. We return to the Kadabra scene and applying this to the layer with the V key and the UI command. There we have them.
Lifeless body, dead body.
Okay, great. Now to give it to. This appears slightly more detailed. Rather dreary then. By right-clicking, we will generate one. Layer and fit. Now we will trim this one. Right this way. Above this keyframe, it is valid. And we are going to put an effect called invert. over there. This is similar to the...
Word, corpse, and more.
Well, but this is exactly what it is. Adjustment layer. I'm going to put it starting in these keyframes. Here when he uses flicker, something happens. Not here to see. Now.
Corpse. Numerous corpses.
Another one is worth it, which we can do. It's here to the jet composition analysis. Journey to LA. Zombie jet cape with complete control delay. We double and we are going to give it an effect called extraxe. We decided to place it over here, so we're left alone with this magnificent cape and these levers. Are we moving them towards the right side? And this one from below stops. If the extraction is smoother, we can move it towards the left. However, we're additionally going to include another effect known as tint. And we'll proceed moving ahead. These levers, over there more or less. I think there. Is this now flawless? Kappa, we are planning to insert an alternative effect termed deep. No, oh. Can you put the glow that comes by default? In After Effects, we position it there. And here, we download it. Exhibition. For instance, right there at 0.05, and we configure it in mode. Include. And, well, look at this remarkable scene. Well, we give you a little more. There's a stunning view. This image. But only at lights.
Corpse.
Although here in this one, observe this part closely. Yes, active. I see a consistently high quality straight line here. What about this? It's because the brightness of the Diplo here is. So let's do one thing. We're going to get the pen tool. As for this segment here, we cut it out. However, we're going to put on a mask. Once we subtract, alright, then. Could it be turned up slightly? The draft needs to be a bit less. And now, Diglow effect then. We can also take him down a little bit. Consider the radius, for instance, about 200 units. You can see quite a lot there. Much better. With this scene already finished, we are going to come to the composition. Montage, but first. This audio, with right click, we are going to make it a layer of guide, so that the main composition is not heard. We come here to the assembly and additional details. Let's create the first. Here we transition to the next segment. In our compositions, we arrive at the point. Cadabra scene. Shall we put it over here? We change the color. For example, yellow.
An online bookstore taking advantage. Growing potential of the internet. Initially, Bezos considered calling from the internet. Initially, Bezos considered calling the company Cadabra.
But his...
Counselor, I advise you to dismiss that name because it sounded too much like the
A word, like a lifeless body.
With 1.
Initial investment.
Let's go. Make a preview of what are we carrying. So far, let's see what it looks like in Bathhausen.
994. Jeff Bezos founds the company Amazon, which had its physical space in the garage of his house in Seattle.
This one.
Jeff's impulse was generated by the idea of creating an online bookstore, taking advantage of the growing potential of the Internet. Initially, Bezos considered calling the company. His lawyer advised him to discard that name because it sounded too much like L.A.
With 1.
Initial investment of $10,000 from your own pocket, okay?
Perfect in every way. Forms. Then, when we are more advanced in animation, we can go. Correcting the timings. For example, at this point, we can shift it slightly to the right.
In the beginning, Bezos thought about naming the company Cadabra.
However, his
Lawyer advised him to discard that name because it sounded too similar to the
Everyone's word.
forms.
As I tell you, as we move forward, we can modify the timing, fixing things that we don't like, adding details, but for now, I think it looks pretty good. And now all of them, these are the, should I close it so that I won't? Have all this full of compositions, and the most important thing is to keep ours. Archive we come. A file, save as an interactive animation. Regular course save.